Lissa from DC Collaborative. We'll probably have some more folks in the meeting room that then we'll ask to get back on board our Zoom chat. So I see everyone is introducing themselves in the chat, so thank you very much. We are, we're really great to be able to stay connected with everyone in our community here in the DC Arts and Humanities community. And certainly having the opportunity to see everyone's faces every day has been really heartwarming for us at the Collaborative. Daily Zoom chats, just a little housekeeping is we do record these sessions. We ask that you remain on mute. And also changed our format a bit to have some guest speakers and community participants at each meeting. And before we get started today with our special guest, just wanted to reiterate a message that you received from Tracey, and for those of you that were on the Zoom chat yesterday, Collaborative is committed to making our daily Zoom chats a safe space for all of us to virtually convene. And our sincerest apologies for the unwanted guest that joined us at the beginning of yesterday's Zoom chat. So for many of you, as you know, we all have been using Zoom chat in our business and personal lives, and likely we didn't realize that there were some extra security measures that we could put in place. So moving forward, we have put those measures in place to ensure that every one of our virtual convenings are free of any inappropriate interruptions. So there will be that virtual waiting room setup as you experienced, and then you'll be admitted to the meeting. That's by one of the DC Collaborative staff. And then we just today for that process, and we'll be sharing that with the rest of our community. And continue. So I'm gonna get many of you know as a great arts education leader who's based here in DC, great art education advocate of international and national import. And Jeff POulin is here to talk about his new organization, Creative Generation, and its work to inspire, connect, amplify the work of individuals, organizations related to the capacities of our students, our next generation of creatives. And in particular, he's going to talk a bit about the organization for those that don't know a lot about Creative Generation just yet and all the cool things they've been working on. But a new campaign, hashtag Keep Making Art, and one that we all should be using now, really now more than ever, starting now and throughout this entire situation. Hold on, sorry guys. Karen, your screen is freezing up in audio. Yeah, can people hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up if I'm coming in clear? Or is everyone breaking up? It's happening to you too? Not good?
It's all garbled.
Oh, hold on. Shoot. Hold on, folks. That means you've probably missed a lot of what I've said, yes?
I think I mean, I got the gist, but.
Sorry, welcome to our new world. Okay, let's, yes, you got the gist. Okay, all right, so then let's reintroduce our friend Jeff POulin. Jeff, if anyone's having any challenges hearing Jeff, just mention it in the chat, and if we have to reboot, we will, but we want to make sure that at least this recording is solid because we'll be distributing it to our entire community. So hi, good morning, Jeff.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay? Great, great. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Hi, Christy. Welcome. It's nice to see familiar faces on this call. It's always wonderful to be with the DC Collaborative with sort of my old homes. I do live here right in the district, so I am part of your community, but I appreciate this opportunity to talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing at Creative Generation. As Lissa mentioned, Creative Generation is an organization that works to inspire, connect, and amplify the work of individuals and organizations who are committed to cultivating the creative capacities of the next generation. We started about a year ago. Actually, our first birthday is next week. And we've been doing a ton of work all around the world, conducting original research, publishing new and different tools to support the field of arts and cultural education, as well as operating several campaigns. So we have 4 signature programs. The first and our most visible is the Campaign for Creative Generation, which focuses on amplifying the work of organizations and individuals that are really making a difference in communities all around the world, helping them tell their stories and shine a spotlight on some of the untold successes that we see making a difference in the lives of young people. We also operate an institute where we conduct research, an academy where we train leaders, and an incubator where we test a lot of our theories through direct interventions, document those processes, and help the field continue to progress in a positive way. However, we're also a very agile and responsive organization. So in the past couple of weeks, we no doubt saw the calls for help and jumped in to support the field of arts education in new and different ways. The first way that we did that was worked with a group of funders from around the United States, several internationally, and put out a fast response survey, which asked the field of arts and culture and education to respond to ways that funders in particular, whether they be government, private, public, individual, how they can best support the field of arts and cultural education. And it came back with 2 major findings. The first was that funders needed to support the most vulnerable within our ecosystem, and that tends to be the freelance or gig artists and educators, or teaching artists in particular, that rely on often discretionary funds or unplanned funds to pay things like a salary, their rent, medical insurance, and things of that nature. The second finding was that the field really desired for funders to pivot their funding in order to support the kind of systematic migration to online and digital learning platforms, both in terms of increasing the pedagogical advancements for educators, but also the resources as developed and disseminated through our cultural institutions, sort of recognizing the responsibility of those with power, influence, and frankly, monetary resources, but also recognizing the huge opportunity that we have to instigate pedagogical advancements for our educators and instill some sort of normalcy in this really crazy time we're living in for our new sector of at-home educators, parents, older siblings, things of that nature, and of course our young creatives. And so one of our core beliefs is anytime that we do research, we tie it to some sort of action. So in the past, we have operated the Campaign for Creative Generation, which I mentioned before. This year, the 2020 campaign was targeted around articulating the fundamental civil and human rights to arts and cultural education for our globe's young people. But we pivoted and launched a new campaign, which I told myself that we would just do 1 a year, but here we are doing 2 in response to the coronavirus, called #KeepMakingArt. So this has grown in just a week. We launched 1 week ago today to involve about 200 partners on all 6 continents with about a reach of 1.25 million every day. And this campaign on social media is really encouraging folks to keep creating, share their tools and resources for those who need them, and to follow the campaign hashtag to remain connected to others within the field. And our major goal is really to respond to this time of uncertainty, where people are dealing with new sets of anxiety around health and well-being, adapting to new virtual working spaces, being home from school or cultural institutions. And our goal is to really spark joy, inspire action, and to build togetherness. So I want to just share my screen with you to show you our new toolkit, which you as individuals or as organizations can engage with. You can find it by visiting our website, which is www.creative-generation.org/keep-making-art. It's up here in the taskbar. This campaign, as you'll see here, has an associated toolkit. You can go ahead and read our blog post, which is about our theory of change with this campaign. Oh, sorry, we have a small furry visitor trying to say hello. And then you can also read about some of the successes that we've seen in another blog post that we put out around the arts and cultural response to COVID-19. Next, you're on page. You can register, which will give you about weekly updates on how you can engage, as well as easy tasks that you can do, as simple as retweeting something or posting an article. We also have all of our materials translated into Arabic, French, Spanish, and Mandarin, as well as English, and a new set of materials that are coming out today using American Sign Language and captioned videos. Next, you can download a graphics pack where we've done all of the work for you to generate graphics and calls to action for your communities. This is organized into 3 phases, which I'll talk about in a minute. But when you click on each phase, you'll find a number of resources like this, as well as they're organized around the calls to action, whether you're encouraging people to create, to follow, to share. And inside, you'll see all sorts of different things highlighting various art forms and different calls to action based on the needs of your own organization. The second thing that you can do is download our messaging matrix, which I've also included here to show you. And this is based on our 5 audiences: students, parents, artists, educators, and organizations. And all of the language that's included in a various phases 1, phase 2, or phase 3 encourage you to utilize some language that is shared across the entire field. You can borrow some of this language or customize it to meet your needs, but it does directly align with many of the graphics that we've also created for you. And then finally, we have the campaign calendar, which outlines our work over the course of the month. However, I will tell you, it will be updated shortly because we're adding a 4th phase. And that 4th phase is directly aligned with our research and documentation. We're actually partnering with Professor Jimena Varela from American University, who's leading a project to study the artistic response to COVID-19. Her actual work has, as a professor, has focused on studying the artistic response to the Black Death from the 14th century, which is super interesting. And what she's done is developed a typology to look at and examine trends within the response to COVID-19 as well. And you can check out more on her website, which is COVID-19 Art Stories, which is operating in both Spanish and English. And you can submit stories about artistic responses that you see, or you can even read the stories that are coming out with examples of successes that do provide some sense of inspiration as well. That's just one example of how we're documenting our process. We also have a partnership with a podcast series, Teaching Artistry with Courtney J. Body, operated out of New York, looking at how teaching artists are responding in their own communities through a series of video interviews, as well as working with Wolf Brown, the arts and cultural research consultancy firm that is conducting research on and producing tools for organizations to respond in a number of different ways. And like I mentioned, we also have a series of partners, about 200 around the world, that you'll see that range from countries like South Sudan, Canada, the United States, international organizations like INSEA, others that are operating as associations or individual programs, some that you may know, some that you don't. And it's so far been a really tremendous response. So I wanted to share all of that with you and encourage you to take action through your own organization or within your own sphere of influence and networks on social media, because this campaign has so far proven to be very successful, engaging, and work to really connect our community on a global scale to make the most of what everyone is doing in response to this crisis. So that is my brief overview. I will pause and take any questions that you may have at this time. And take a sip of coffee because it's still early.
Chef, it's too bad you haven't been busy at all lately.
Yeah.
Too bad. I mean, you lazy man. This is so awesome. I love it. What a great set of resources, and I really appreciate it. It's contributing so much to the greater good.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, you know, there was a point where I feel like the moment that DC sort of decided to shut down, you know, we ventured out of the district to Wegmans, as one does, to fully stock up, and kind of hunkered down to find that literally every one of our consultancy projects has pretty much been put on hold. And, you know, that weekend I read 2 books in the course of, you know, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then Monday morning came around, and we started taking action to directly respond. And then it became a very, very fast moving process. But I appreciate those kind words. And really, we try to work in service to folks. You'll also notice that there's no logo placement on any of this, that we really are operating as a humble contributor and resource for folks, so that organizations like all of yours that are on the ground really doing this work have everything ready-made to just carry it out, and to make the most of what's being produced. You know, there's really incredible work coming out of you know, museums or cultural institutions or you know, music groups, dance companies, and so forth that are you know, kind of pushing the way that we're doing our work. And I think it actually is opening up a whole new way. We need to have a conversation after all of this pandemic stuff has concluded, so that we can think about what we've learned from this time. Because I feel like there's definitely a new way. You know, when we talk about this, we talk about arts and cultural education. You know, so what a treat, you know, for folks who never can experience, you know, the arts and culture from other sectors, that now, as part of their day-to-day learning, are looking at, you know, musical performances from the Maori culture in New Zealand, which isn't something that we, you know, have access to on a daily basis here in Washington, D.C. But now we can. And so we realized that there were so many people aggregating resources that were highly customized to their audience, like the DC Collaborative's new online catalog and things like that, which are really tremendous. And we didn't need to do that as well. But what we found is that if we could create a social media campaign that would allow people to share proactively and allow people to connect to that stuff using the hashtag, it's been really great. And then also, I would encourage you all, if you are on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, within your settings, you can click an auto translate button, which will allow for people who are sharing resources in other languages to actually pop up in your feed. So when you click the hashtag, we've enabled that so that it auto translates. So when someone uses Keep Making Art in, say, Arabic, or in French, or in Mandarin, it will pop up in that same feed, and then the resources will be translated for you. Translation is not always perfect, but it will definitely get you to a space where you can utilize those tools.
That is so cool. Anyone else have any questions, thoughts before I jump in? No?
I noticed someone is asking for a PowerPoint, which wasn't, this is actually just a screen share of a website, but I am posting the link there, so you can click on it.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff.
And it's all open resource, so please feel free to share far and wide.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be incorporating this into our social media on Facebook and Twitter, and it's phenomenal what you've put together so quickly. And you're absolutely right. Even with the DC Collaborative's distance learning database, which we're super proud of, similar to you guys, we pivoted immediately and got that together. It's still building. I think we have over 100 unique learning opportunities on it presently, plus additional supplementary resources that are national and international. That list continues to build. It's a great resource. It's one that also is not limited to DC. It actually features and showcases DC cultural institutions' learning opportunities, right? So we've had some, thanks to Google Analytics, we've had some folks from the UK, from Canada, from across the globe also looking at this resource. On average, we get about 400 unique visitors a day so far, mostly DC based. But I do like the idea of the connectiveness of Keep Making Art as a campaign, because this is global. What we are experiencing is so very global, and I think having this platform for all of us to share is just such a tremendous resource as we all look to what does our learning look like, not only right now, but as we get through this COVID. And like you said, Jeff, for us to reconvene, and hopefully that's sooner than what we are hearing it may be. It's going to be really great to be on the other side of this, obviously, for a lot of reasons, but also for us to look at all of these great new opportunities that we've created as a result, and also the new way that we're going to keep advancing culture and creating new creatives, right? And also new arts ambassadors, new arts and cultural supporters. And that's something that's going to be very important for us, and to focus on our youth. So
yeah, and I would just add, Lissa, too, that be sure to follow Creative Generation on social media as well, at campaign number 4 Gen, GENC, which is the name of our general campaign. But
yeah,
we also are working with a number of kind of thought-provoking authors. You'll notice, actually, in probably 20 minutes or so, a blog will post from Eric Booth, the father of teaching artistry, who's sharing sort of ways that we can leverage this moment to really innovate towards the future, so that we're not as underprepared as we were in times of drastic change. We also have Jenny Palmer-Wolf, who is kind of the preeminent researcher in the field, who's doing the same. That we have all of these action-oriented, forward-thinking thought pieces coming out to really help support our field in their innovation as this pandemic comes to a close. So that's something that we're definitely thinking about. And pushing the kind of dialogue already, so that we can capture the learnings now. So definitely do that. And Christy, to your question, it's actually a blog from Eric, so you can read that and engage in that way. So there will be more coming out starting today for the next couple of weeks.
That's great. We'll definitely circulate that. Also, if you could put, Jeff, in the chat that social media connect, so everyone has to follow you. I think that it is so important for us to acknowledge how underprepared we were for this. Ironically, with so much technology, we just were not. And we have to think about that as we think about the new iterations of how we learn. And also we have to think about equity. And that's so important to our work, especially here in the district. When we were just talking with some folks yesterday, we're talking about student populations in wards east of the river that don't even have access to technology, maybe are just sharing limited resources amongst family members. So how do we ensure that all of our students are able to participate in this work moving forward? That's something that continues to be important to us. And I really appreciate the rapid response that you put together, that needs assessment to go to funders. We at the Collaborative were asked by the K-Fritz Foundation and a few others to do something similar, and we're actually getting some of that data in this week. So for those of you, you may be getting a reminder message from Trey. Please share. It's in narrative form, so we feel that's easier because it can address your specific community or personal needs. But we'll also share, Jeff, those findings that you have as well, if you wouldn't mind just pointing me to that resource. We can share that with K-Fritz as well, because it is really important. Yeah. We're seeing some similar trending just anecdotally around support for those in immediate need, such as our teaching artist friends, which we have a few on the line today. And then of course, how we've all had to, and in order to thrive and survive, to pivot our work, looking at, proactively and positively at how we can advance education in this new environment of home learning. As you said, it's interesting that maybe some of our homeschooler community friends have been ahead of us on this too, so we can learn a lot there. But this is our new norm, and it will be for a while, certainly through this school year for sure. But even when we're able to get back to a somewhat normal routine operationally, it's going to be very important for us to look at this as a hybrid of how we teach moving forward. So I appreciated that data, because it's certainly trending with what we've heard so far anecdotally as well. And we appreciate that a lot of funders are being very cognizant and considerate of that, because even in the funding community, it's no longer business as usual in the type of grant making they do. And they're going to have to pivot as well. Do any of our teaching artists have any thoughts or ideas or questions for Jeff? Because I know we have a few on the line today. Oh, Karen just stepped away. Hey, Sylvia.
I was just going to say, this is all so exciting. It's just a lot to absorb. It's just so inspiring. And you were so eloquent. So I don't have any questions really, because it's just so much that I need to read and become acquainted with, and just see what you were doing. I find it's very interesting, your phase 4, the documentation of the art response. I think that's an area that we as teaching artists and educators, because we are hybrid too. Is an area that interests us, and that I would be looking for a way in which to be engaged with, or watching a little bit closer of how that research develops.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Tom, did you want to share?
Yes, I've been working on a regular Facebook page for several years, and I've made 365 pictures, a different one for each year, and 12 stories for the month. But this month I'm doing a story on the plague, the Black Plague of Europe, and how it affected Nostradamus. I've been to the south of France a couple of times to visit Nostradamus' birthplace and research the subject. And so I thought maybe that I should contact this American University professor, Varela, since I'm doing my own modern interpretation of the Black Plague and how it relates to the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. How would you contact this group? What was that? How do you use a hashtag to contact someone?
I wouldn't use a hashtag to contact her. I'm not sure that she's looking at each post that's tagged with the hashtag. I would hope she is, but I don't think that's possible. If you go to her website, which is linked through ours, there's a contact feature, and you can submit that.
Let me write that down, your website address.
Sure, I put it in the chat box too, if that's easier. I can also send you, her website is COVID-19artstories.org.
Okay.
Which I'll put in the chat box as well.
And we'll keep this open a little bit so people can scroll through the chat box.
This sounds like something she might be interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's fascinating. And I think too, there's a lot that we can learn through sort of comparing and contrasting all of those things. And, that there surely is a way around sort of the arts heal messaging that we can be illuminated through this for sure. But I also teach a group of emerging theater educators through a master's in educational theater program, and I always remind them that it was that King Lear was written during a home containment period, so that they have to really be doing their best artwork during this time.
The pressure, really.
Yeah, they don't like hearing that, but it's a nice reminder that we can get through this,
That's right. Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's a nice that's a positive thing to share right now. I don't know how many of you have been experiencing like great intense waves of creativity as artists. You know, sometimes that can happen during these periods, just like King Lear. Or it may not be your King Lear, but certainly a lot more activity. I noticed that I've had more peaks and waves of creativity coming through the last couple of weeks, despite being so overwhelmed by what's happening, obviously. But it is indeed interesting how that can happen during times like these.
Lissa, I just would like, Jeff, you showed that table with your different constituencies, like the parents, the teaching artists, the students. Would you mind putting that on the screen again, please?
Just hold on one moment. I close out of the tab. You can also find it. You can download it yourself if you would like to reference it, but here, let me open it for you again.
And I know you have a lot of data, and I haven't read anything, so this is just the time that I've been here. If David Marquis were here, he probably would have been asking, how are you assessing the impact of what you're doing?
That's right.
That's true. So yeah, we actually use a tool, since this is a social media, largely a social media campaign. Our metrics of evaluation are based off of a tool that measures impact in that way. I have no idea how they actually do it, but it basically generates impact based on impressions and engagements and things of that nature, which is how we're able to say that we're reaching about 1.25 million people daily. We also know that we have a number of partners that are doing it, and we have our own kind of demographics of click-through rates for our own internal success markers. But as far as what it means for the field, I have no idea how we would actually measure, you know, if people feel supported on a global scale. Like, no idea. But as far as some of the metrics on our sort of preliminary objectives around connecting with people, engaging partners, reaching individuals within these demographic profiles. For example, one of the things that we know of those who have posted, there are certain things on social media you can put in, certain demographic metrics that you can put into your profile. And so we know, for as an example, that like 25% of people that are posting are executive leaders of organizations. We know that about 30% that are posting are artists. Another 15% are students. Again, the reliability of that, not entirely sure. It's all self-reported. It's through, you know, through these various platforms, but it's interesting to know that, you know, at least on that surface level, we're reaching the people that we're intending to reach.
Yeah. And reaching students, which I think is really terrific.
Yeah, because
some of our campaign work, some of our work, we don't get that direct engagement. So it is hard to measure impact for many reasons, but certainly for that too.
And again, yeah, we also can't take total credit. You know, it's a hashtag. Sure. So if people are using it, you know, I noticed Black Violet in the music group, you know, put out a series of things, and maybe they received our call to action. I doubt it. I think they just maybe saw the hashtag and thought it was a great idea. It's so fine. But we'll also take it because it's accomplishing our goal. And like I said, in this time, you know, we are as an organization, and we're also encouraging all of our partners to operate sort of with that sense of humility, to say like, it's not about us, it's actually about accomplishing this larger goal. And, you know, for us, those goals are, you know, making sure young people are still creating to continue their learning and self-expression, to make sure parents are supported as at-home teachers, to make sure artists are still creating, because God knows, you know, what happens when artists aren't able to create, like the world just explodes. So we don't want that. We want educators to feel supported in this new environment. And of course, we want organizations to continue reaching their goals and objectives as cultural institutions, to reach out to their constituents. And so through that, we do feel like we're accomplishing some success.
And thank you for sharing this table again. Everything's just so concise, big thoughts, big ideas in few words. I find it's very attainable and pragmatic in the way that you divide it and just put it in an organized way and thinking. I think what so many of us really do and what we are hoping to accomplish. So.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I also will just blanket apologize if you find a typo. Like I said, we turned this around very fast. And I also noticed in a series of email communications, I referred to one of the constituencies as vulture organizations rather than culture organizations. Went out to about 100 people, and I was like, oh.
That's funny.
You know, but yeah, we're all doing our best. So I appreciate that.
No, I think, yeah, we all have to take care of ourselves and each other right now. And vulture, that's a minor typo issue, or even, oh my gosh, or God forbid, like what happened yesterday, which hopefully will not happen again, with our unwanted guest crashing our Zoom chat. Things happen right now, and we all have to just give ourselves, be supportive of each other. So yeah, if you see vulture, just be like, oh, hey, and not take it personally, because we are all in this together, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think what I do like about this moment is just that, because the collaborative, we have collaborative in our name. You know, it's not about competition. It's about, you know, we often would say, oh, we're that neutral resource. We're like Switzerland. That doesn't matter anymore, because all of us have to be that. We all need to be helping each other right now. And I hope that the one thing when we get through this and on the other side is that collaborative spirit endures. I'm sorry we would have to learn this through this horrible lesson, but if that's what it takes for us to truly collaborate as community, especially around educating our youngest citizens, then so be it. But I am heartwarmed by so much of the collaborative spirit we're seeing right now, and the ability for all of us to just give ourselves a break too, if we make small little typos and in efforts to get materials out. You know, understanding intent is so important. We're all in it together. I mean, we've probably issued a bunch of things very rapidly with similar types of typos for sure. But hell, even on a good day, I usually have a couple typos or two, as Tracey knows.
I meant me too. There was one time I spelled education wrong. Even that one. So.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh, you know, that just reminds me, and it throws me back to my many years ago arts advocacy days when I was with, both Jeff and I share one alum connection of being part of Americans for the Arts at many different times and reasons, and we've all moved on into the other side of that. But it was the eve before National Arts Advocacy Day, and we were all sitting in Jack Duncan's office, who was our legal counsel at the time, putting together all the press kits for William Blunt, who the Postmaster General under Nixon, who was was giving the address, and there was just the most god-awful typo in the press release. I can't say the word online. It was really a naughty word right after his name, and we were like, oh shit. But we caught it at least. It was pretty funny. But I imagine it would have been hysterical for the media to have seen that the next day. So it happens. Happens to the best of us. But I'll never forget that, especially on a press release. Always be careful of press release. So more resources, more ways to connect. I think social media campaigns are so important. I also would recommend for all of us to obviously use the Keep Making Art hashtag and sharing this. It's a really easy, simple message, as Sylvia said. Really appreciate that clean, easy approach. It seems very accessible for all of us to do during a time when we're so overwhelmed with what to do. So at the Collaborative, we'll think about this. As an artist, I will think about how to move this forward as well. But it's important for us not to silo our work and to get behind bigger messages. And I think that this one having international connectivity, it steps us outside of our community as well, is really important right now. And often those are the pathways to greater success too. So everyone, please circulate and share this widely, and check out these blog posts that Jeff's putting up, because these are some pretty amazing resources and speakers and folks that we can all learn from, like the Eric Booth, everyone is incredible that you're working with, Jeff. So thank you for opening this up and sharing it with everyone.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thanks again for having me.
Yay, okay, yes. Jazz hands, thank you. Big thank you to Jeff. Everything, we'll keep this chat open a bit so you can grab all of those links. We'll forward them out as well. We'll make sure that Kelsey is our social media guru. She's on the line. So Kelsey will make sure that she has thumbs up. She'll make sure that we get all of that out. If you check the DC Collaborative's Facebook and Twitter, we'll be pushing all of this out as well. And then Jeff will ask you to come back and check in with us as we continue to be here. We'll be here every day on our Zoom chats. Tracey, do you want to just give a little info about what's coming up?
Yeah, sure. So on Wednesday, it's a Zoom chat geared for teaching artists to come and share. On Thursday, Christy Walser from Project Create and Maureen Dwyer will talk about organizational leadership and their plan for summer camp programming and future programming. And then Friday, we'll have a general equity discussion that always comes up in collaborative meetings. Our mission is equitable access, but especially at a time of distance learning, we'll share some of our successes and challenges with distance learning and equitable access on Friday. I also have a form where you guys could sign up for listservs if you still want to stay connected after the chat. So the people that are still in this meeting are among our most active, so you might have already filled out the form, but it's in here, so please stay connected. And Lissa and I would also love to turn the mic over, like we did with Jeff today, to other people to lead a portion of these sessions for you to share and connect, even if it is more like you are discussing a challenge and are asking the community for answers. So this form lists the Zoom chat topics, and sort of the first question is more of ascertaining the interest level in the different topics to see if you'll participate. And the next question is asking you if you would like to lead a session or co-present. And then the bottom question is asking which listservs you'd like to sign up for. So hope to see all of your smiling faces without any other interruptions on a future Zoom chat with you guys.
Thanks everyone, be well. And thanks again, Jeff. Hashtag keep making art. Don't forget it, y'all. Bye. I'm still on. I'll be off in a minute, honey.